himself. I mean, hopefully he shops on Amazon and is an Amazon Prime member where he doesn't even go to the grocery store, seriously, because, I think it would be dangerous for him, to be quite honest with you, to be, a normal citizen on the streets these days. I certainly would, if I was him, I would be getting out of Dodge really quick.
Well, it'll be interesting. Keith, I was going to say, so with all this said, about the trial and the long 27 months of going through this, we are doing something positive with everything that we have gone through. You know us well enough to know we're not quitters. We don't give up. We're probably never going to get the answers and the results, that we want. But one thing we are never, ever, ever going to do, and that is give up on justice for Michael Funk. So we have formed a group, a committee. Actually, Steve formed this committee and got us involved like he has a good way of doing. We now have 376 members from across the United States that have joined this group, and it's growing every day.
Oh, wow. That's great.
The people involved in this group have loved ones that were killed by police. Mm-hmm. Now, I say that were killed by police. We can't even begin to get into having members of people that were hurt by the police, traumatized by the police, anything. These are people whose loved ones were killed by the police. And we felt, that we have the capability of trying to make some changes, be it in the legislature, finding out common cause that all of us have together. And this is what we're going to be going forward on now with our Committee for Cultural Change. Steve's going to tell you a little bit here on some concerns that we have that brought us to this point.
Committee for Cultural Change. By the way, do you guys have a website?
We are working on a website right now. We have a Facebook page.
Oh, good.
People, I want to emphasize that you do not have to have a loved one that was murdered by the police to join this group. If you have a concern, which a lot of people do, hearing this stuff going all across the country every day, we encourage you to join.
Yeah, and are you nonprofit?
Yes. So we're not doing anything right now. We just formed a group.
I see.
And we're going to see where it all goes from here.
Great. Well, people need to band together, and there's power in numbers, that's for sure. And even though we may not have gotten exactly the justice that we were seeking for Michael and his family, I think that we did create a lot of awareness there in Neenah and educated the community as to what they did. And like I said, you can't walk around Neenah and be, those officers and the chief of police. People have memories, and they understood. And one thing I'll tell you about Neenah is that so many people came out into the cycle shop, and a lot of people know what happened and won't soon forget it. And that's good that Wilkinson's stepped down. Hopefully he'll never seek out another position anywhere else in the country. And if he does, we should definitely remind that community to never hire him. And believe me, we'll do a broadcast there. Mark my words. I'll pay my own flight.
Okay. But Steve's going to tell you a little bit about some concerns that we have and why this committee was formed.
By the way, Steve Arado, motorcycle shop owner, friends with ML, who lost his life. And Steve Arado's a veteran that served our military bravely, courageously. And I'm sorry once again for your friend. I know the trial probably just brought up all of this all over again freshly. But Steve, tell me a little about the organization and what you're doing with it.
Well, I just want to back up just a drop, Keith, because I want to remind everybody that Michael Funk also was a Vietnam-era veteran. I was a Vietnam veteran. He was a Vietnam-era veteran. And Eagle Nations was determined by the state of Wisconsin. We're a disabled veteran-owned business. So, I mean, I know
you're patriots.
Talk bad about it, but
we salute you. We salute you. You guys are patriots. And ML, if you can hear me, you're a patriot. We'll never forget you, brother.
Thanks a lot. But the reason we formed this group is because we kind of noticed there's a lot of similarities amongst all the people that have gone through a similar type situation. And it seems like the government's strategy is basically to keep everybody individually and separated from each other. But we've noticed that there's been a real pattern of how the government handles every one of these police shootings. And some of the things that we've noticed are the amount of times everyone's been shot. If you check all of the situations of murder or killing by police, they've shoot multiple times. In our own group itself, we've got one woman whose brother was shot at 64 times in Milwaukee.
Oh, my.
Yet he had committed a crime and he climbed in a dumpster. Well, instead of the police just getting him out of the dumpster and putting him in jail, they surrounded him and shot 64 times into the dumpster. As you know, Michael Funk here was shot at 19 times from 25 yards away.
Mm-hmm.
Another case we have here of a woman whose son was autistic and had mental issues, shot 9 times. I mean, it's just multiple times. It's pretty clear that the police want the person dead. They do not want to have to go to court and have a Michael Funk show up and tell his side of the story. That doesn't happen. So the other thing we've noticed, the police always say they were in fear of their lives or others' lives. That's kind of a standard answer across.
Weren't the hostages afraid of their lives? Weren't you afraid of yours?
Yeah, and we don't have the guns and equipment they have either. So
yeah, weren't they supposed to be trained for occasions
they're
like
very
this?
well high-paid professional SWAT team members that turn around and ran out the door, abandoning their equipment in the building.
And then they came out and said later on the reason they didn't do what should have been done is because they feared that you guys were laying for him inside the building, that you were going to go ahead and ambush him. Why would they ever think something like that?
Well, even though Eagle Nation has a 20-year, we've been here 20 years. We have a 20-year history of Saturday morning serving a breakfast that we were expecting a lot of kids at. And that's if there was any community policing that was going on, they would have known that that's what we've done for 20 years.
Sure.
So for some reason, they decided that morning we were going to decide we wanted to shoot police officers.
Yeah, it's just unfathomable for the service and for you opening the doors to the community and the nice things that you continue to do and welcome the whole community in. The last time I checked, anybody riding one of those bikes had money and worked a job, because you don't ride for free and you don't repair those bikes for free. You run a business and you pay taxes just like any other business in that city, and you deserve to be in business. And I hope to God that if you ever do decide to sell that building, that you make out like a bandit.
Well, I do want to say that's Mike Peterson, who was one of the hostages and one of those accused of part of the plot to kill police officers, was just one of the neighbors that was coming over for coffee like he'd been doing for years. He can tell you himself. Yeah,
Mike, you remember that morning, 2015. What do you want to add to what we're talking about?
Well, that's a morning that'd be hard for me to ever forget, and I'm sure I never will. It was just another typical Saturday morning for me, where I just walked over to have a couple cups of coffee, and I think everybody on your show knows that it's heard what all went down that morning, and it was a very, very scary morning, not only for me, for the other people that were involved. And I'm glad that at least partial justice should be served May 16th when Brian Flatoff gets sentenced.
Yeah.
I would like to see it go farther for the actual killing of ML, but I have my doubts. Like Steve, I've seen how the system works. I'm not happy with it, and I've made my feelings very clear to the DA of Winnebago County, and I guess I can add to no avail, because I know nothing's going to be followed through on that end as of now.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully with more people involved, if it ever happens, it'll be looked into farther.
Sure. Yeah, one of the hostages back in 2015 was in the building and witnessed all of this that went down, but just reflecting on what's taken place, and Flatoff was charged, but it doesn't bring back ML, and it certainly doesn't fix the wrongful death of Michael Funk with the police officers repeatedly, not just killing Michael Funk once, but they could have killed him about 16, 17 times because they kept on emptying their revolver into him just to make sure that he was good and dead. There's just a lot of unanswered questions, and what do you say, an abuse of power for the Neenah Police Department. And it's beyond me how the DA, seriously, Kay, Michael, Steve, how they can overlook that information and still not charge them with anything. It's how do you explain yourself when you do something like that? I mean, is that just, like I say, business as usual with the Neenah Police Department? Is that how they act?
Well, they were they were totally protected by that law, and they took advantage of it. I mean, they used that law to the fullest. They knew. I cannot believe that they didn't know, and that deep down inside, that they couldn't agree that Craig Hoffer and Robert Ross were the two people that murdered Michael Funk. But again, because they were protected by that law, it just gave them a free run. It gave the ADA, the Assistant District Attorney, the power to run the trial the way he did. Hostages were told, don't mention the cops. This isn't about the cops. This is about Brian Flatoff. You know, they were told what to say. Those cops were so protective. You know, I heard lies on the stand from the cops. It's one thing, you know, to lie in the beginning and, you know, the no transparency at all. But 27 months later, you're sitting on the stand and you're still lying.
My goodness.
All we've ever asked for was the truth in the very beginning, and we wouldn't have the issues that we have today to have to form a committee involving over 376 people.
That's right. Yeah, just screwy, I guess is a good word to say. Final remarks for today's broadcast and the weekend broadcast about what you're trying to do around the country to unite people with your organization. Where can we find you on Facebook and or an email address for our audience that's interested in getting involved?
On Facebook, we are the Committee for Cultural Change. Our email address is ccc@gmail.com.
ccc@gmail.com.
Correct.
Excellent. You guys...
Keith, a correction. cccgroup@yahoo.com.
cccgroup@yahoo.com.
Yahoo.com.
cccgroup@yahoo.com. All right. And send an email and inquiries. And I'm sure there's other people out there, I mean, that have had similar run-ins and issues that have happened. And you just shake your head in unbelief. I mean, I'm glad that Flatoff at least is going to be behind bars. But I believe the officers and even the chief of police, they should be behind bars because they did not act ethically, morally, and they certainly did not like Eagle Nation Cycles because of the raid, didn't find anything, thought that Steve, I guess, and his buddies who were in the gym below were cooking up some kind of meth or something, and there was nothing going on other than making coffee and working out and working on motorcycles. You know, and I just, for the life of me, don't understand why so many people can feel like that's okay at the end of the day and put their nose up and just walk around like that. But, you know, there's always going to be injustices, unfortunately, but it takes strong and courageous people to stand up, and we're going to continue doing that. And Kay and Steve and Mike, you guys are courageous, and I have been privileged to be able to be part of this in some small way, offering airtime. And to the mother of Michael Funk, we're just so sorry for the loss of your son. And for anybody that knew Michael, friends and family, so sorry that he lost his life in the way that he did, because nobody should in America endure something like that, especially when you call for 911 just looking for help. And it just doesn't make any sense. But rest in peace, Michael Funk, that's for sure. Guys, any last remarks?
Well, Keith, again, we really would like to encourage people that are listening to your show, talk to your family, talk to your friends. You know, again, this is a support group that we can work together. We do believe in strength in numbers. You know, friend us on Facebook, send us an email, get involved.